What's up guys, Busker here at ThinkComputers, and I'm going to be showing you the BIOS here on the ASRock Fatal1ty Z170 Gaming K6 Plus, and this is actually the first motherboard that I've reviewed that has this easy mode, which is actually pretty cool. We've seen this from a lot of other motherboard manufacturers, is putting an easy mode in the BIOS, so a lot of your settings are very easy to find, sort of like, you know, kind of like BIOS for dummies, I guess you would call it. It's where you can just access things that you need to change really quick, so you don't have to jump through a bunch of menus to go ahead and find them. So what ASRock has done is you have this nice graphical interface here, and we have, you know, our information on our BIOS, our DRAM information, storage configuration. You can set easy OC on or off, which is like instant overclocking. We have our time here and temperatures. And one thing I noticed about my temperature is that it's really warm for some reason. It's only in the BIOS, which is really odd to me. I don't know if the sensor is messed up or what's going on, but when I check it in Windows, it's fine. So it's kind of weird. And then you do have your motherboard temperature and your CPU voltage. You have your boot priority, and if I had more than one hard drive, I could easily just drag and drop and order them the way I want. Again, much easier than jumping into a bunch of menus to do that. We also have our fan settings here, and you can set your fan mode on what you want. It's on standard. We can turn it up or turn it down, and you can also turn RAID modes on or off in your storage configuration really easily as well. Again, much better than jumping through menus. You also have a system browser here, and if I click on it, it brings up a view of the actual board, and we can, you know, you can see what's installed here. We have an NVIDIA VGA controller, you know, Micron memory in there, you know, we have our Intel processor, so it kind of gives you just information of what's going on, what's installed, and all that kind of fun stuff. And we have the ability to flash our BIOS, and one thing that's really cool is you have internet flash, so you can actually flash your BIOS without going into Windows via the internet. It's kind of cool, so you can go ahead and do that. So very easy things here to go ahead and you know, just set everything up if you don't want to jump into the BIOS. But now let's go ahead and jump into the advanced mode, which is you hit F6, or you just click up here and it says switch to advanced mode. We hit yes, and now we're in your typical BIOS. This is normally what you would see, you know, if you're used to going into an ASRock BIOS. So we have our main screen here, which again gives you all of your information, and we have a favorites menu, and you can hit enter or click into it, and you can add things to your favorites. So if there's a setting that you constantly change, you can go ahead and add it in here, so you can easily find it without jumping through a couple menus. The big tab, or the most important tab, I would say, is our OC tweaker. And what that allows you to do is basically set up all of your overclocking and tuning and all of that kind of stuff for your CPU, your RAM, and you can go ahead and change all your voltages. You can also save and load profiles as well. So if you have like an overclocking profile, a gaming profile, you can load those in here as you wish. There is a setup here to instantly overclock. It's disabled obviously by default, but you can go up to 4.8 gigahertz. And again, these are just based on your processor. This is not an auto tuning thing. So if you don't have the right cooling, it's obviously going to not boot, or if you don't have a, you know, powerful enough system, these overclocks won't necessarily boot. They're just here, so you can easily go ahead and overclock. Under CPU configuration, of course, that is everything to do with tuning your CPU. So of course, the most important things: your CPU ratio, your cache ratio, your BCLK frequency, your stepping, all that kind of stuff. And you can go down and see that we have everything, and you can, you know, turn Intel speed step on or off and turbo on or off, and you have your power limits, all that kind of stuff. And all this stuff again is set by auto by default. And one thing I'd like up here is that we do have our targets. So if you're looking for an overclock and you don't do math well, which I don't, it tells you all of your targets for everything. So you won't have to calculate it all in your head, and you can easily go ahead and you know what you're going to be overclocking to. Under DRAM, of course, there is a tweaker thing in here where you can go in and see, you know, all of your JDEC settings and all that kind of stuff, and, you know, see what's going on in the slots. And we can close that. It is cool that it's very graphical. And then you have your BCLK, and then your DRAM reference clocks, and it's all set up. And in here, you would have XMP profile settings, but I don't have RAM installed that has XMP. but if you did, it would be here as well. And here's all your timings, and of course you can set all these to what you want, all in here, all kinds of timings that you can go ahead and set. And then voltage configuration, of course, is all of your voltages. So again, if you're overclocking any of your DRAM or your CPU, you can go in here and set all your voltages correctly, so you can get that, you know, that really good overclock. And then we go into advanced, and this is all of the configuration to do with everything that's on the board. So your CPU configuration, you know, you can turn hyper-threading on and off. You have all that kind of stuff. You know, all your CPU settings. We have our chipset configuration, and this is, you know, you can enable or disable the onboard graphics on your chip if it supports it. Other things that you can go ahead and set up here, you know, onboard LAN you can disable. You can do all that kind of good stuff that you want to on the board. Storage configuration, of course, is all of your storage. So if you want to go ahead and set something up, you can go ahead and do that. And you can see that we only have one hard drive installed, and you can go into each one and set it up how you want. Thunderbolts, oh, we don't have the Thunderbolts attachment on this board, but you can enable or disable it. Super IO, you know, that's just serial port addresses and things like that. ACPI, all that kind of settings in here. PS2 power and things like that you might want to set up. And our USB configuration, you know, if you want to go ahead and enable or disable things, you can go ahead and do that. And we'll go over to tools, and we have some tools here and some things that you can do. So first, we have that same system browser that we saw in the Easy BIOS, and we have Online Management Guard. And what that actually allows you to do is it allows you to set restricted internet access at specific times in the BIOS. So a lot of you who may have children or something like that, you know, it's very easy for children to go in and disable software within Windows or something like that. This does it on a BIOS level, so it actually, I believe it actually disables the network connection completely during specific times, which is really nice. You do it on a BIOS level, so you don't have to worry about it within Windows. So that is pretty cool. You can request text service via the BIOS, say you can't get into Windows or something like that, and this is your only PC. You can do that. Easy RAID installer will help you copy the RAID driver from the support CD. Easy driver installer, same thing. If there's a driver that's missing, Windows won't install. This will help you do that. You have your boot manager, and then you have your flash utilities as well. So you can instant flash, internet flash, and this is to set up your network configuration so you can go ahead and get that update from the internet without having to go into Windows. And then our hardware monitor, again, that CPU temperature is pretty high for, I'm not sure which reason. I've never seen it that high on any of the Z170 systems. I think the sensor's bad. Not specifically sure why it's that high, but we have all of our temperatures and fan speeds and all of that in real time. You can go ahead and see everything, and then you can actually tune your fans in here, and there's software that comes with the board that allows you to do that as well. And you can set everything up for standard mode, all that kind of stuff. You can go ahead and change there. Under security, you can set supervisor password, user passwords, secure boots, and things like that. And then under boots, you can set your hard drive boot priorities, and you can boot from the LAN, things like that. Everything to do with boot is in here. And then under exit, you can save your changes and do all that. There's load defaults, which I like. Sometimes I'm going in, I'm changing everything around, and I want to, I mess something up and I don't remember what it was, or I just completely mess up the BIOS and I just want to load the defaults back to normal, or especially if I'm doing an overclocking session and then I want to put the board back to its original settings. You just load the defaults here. And we do have boot override, which I do like. I love to see it on BIOSes. What that does is, instead of changing my boot device priorities as far as setting my maybe a flash drive first so I can load my OS from a flash drive or install my OS from a flash drive, this just does it once. So what that means is, if I install Windows from a flash drive, the second time it reboots, it's going to boot to the hard drive. So you don't have to go in and change something. It saves you about 5 minutes. It's a good, easy way to do that. And that is basically it for this BIOS. It's not incredibly hard to navigate, really. Everything is where it should be. I haven't had any issues with it freezing or anything like that either. I do like the easy mode, which we can go back to again right here, or hit F6. and we can switch into easy mode. I do like it. It's not as, I would say, visually pleasing as some of the other ones, but that really doesn't matter because it has everything that you would want. It shows you the proper information and allows you to set up things. I'm not specifically sure if there's an XMP setting on here because I don't have memory installed that has XMP, but I believe it would be in this easy mode as well, so you wouldn't have to jump into the BIOS and set everything like that. But that is basically it here for the BIOS on the ASRock Fatal1ty Z170 Gaming K6 Plus motherboard. Now if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. Until next time, catch you guys later.